Welcome to Loserville, folks. Your faithful host, Philip Kingston, joined by the lovely Tyler Wade. How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing well, doing well. I'm back in Indiana. We have a big admitted student weekend coming up this week. So waiting again on 17 and 18-year-old young people to make their college choices. It's a great job.
So that your life can proceed, you
Correct.
require very, very highly developed intellects to make decisions.
Yes. Yeah. But it's fun. This is a time of year that is hard because you feel like you play along. It's the Tom Petty song. The waiting is the hardest part.
Hardest part.
That's between now and May 1 is what our life is. But happy to be with you all today.
And then the vampires will move west down to Ventura Boulevard. Oh, that's the different one. Well, I'm as happy as a lawyer can get. One of my favorite clients got sued yesterday. So our firm is representing the city of Killeen, which passed a marijuana decriminalization ordinance. I'm gonna have to learn to say that word if I intend to win this case. And their county, Bell County, sued them. Now, I don't know what the hell Bell County's standing is to sue. I don't really understand. And I read their petition, so it's legal writing in as far as legal writing can be comedy writing. But it was referred to me by a very good lawyer who was like, look, this isn't really litigation, it's really a political stunt. And I couldn't think of anyone better.
Well,
which I was flattered.
That your brand is that, I think. Right. That's
the legal work won't be very hard, but the politics will be hilarious. Well, we are joined for the second time in Loserville by Loserville endorsed candidate, incumbent, the great Paula Blackmon from Dallas District 9. Hello, Paula.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Are you local today, or are you out in the wilds of West Texas?
I'm local.
You had a long day.
I'm in East Dallas.
You had a long day yesterday, huh?
We were there, yeah. We were there to 4:30.
Not as
and
bad
we
as
started on
be.
time. We started on time-ish, right? About 9:10. So I mean, it made for a long day.
Well, and people, I think, don't understand that when you're up there, even if it's not your item, even if it's not necessarily that impactful to your constituents, you're working. Like there's not any relaxing while you're at the horseshoe. I didn't find it that way anyhow.
Well, I mean, what happens is that is the one place where all staff tend to come together. So you can have a whole list of stuff and work through so many issues. Like, oh, I need to talk to you, and I need to talk to you, give me 5. So yeah, you're trying to listen too, because in case something comes across that does interfere with something you're working on. So it behooves us to have a little ADD on Wednesdays.
Good way to put it. Well, you have done a bunch of good. So we were very smart 2 years ago to endorse you against a field of absolute assholes, really. And you were easily returned to office, which was good. D9 certainly seems to like you, and I think is going to keep you. But I did the thing I was thinking about for the episode was what's a Paula Blackmon signature move from the last term or from her last 2 years, and that shoreline case is the first thing that came to mind. Ohala Holdings is going to build a mixed income project using the Public Facilities Corporation over on former church property off Garland Road. And there was, at least initially, some of the nastiest public meetings I've ever heard stories about. And I would say that by the time it hit council, the voices had been quieted quite a bit. And then everybody just voted in favor of it. And I thought that was a pretty if I were running Paula Blackmon's campaign, I think I would put that on a mailer somewhere, because I think it really is an example of a good exercise of leadership. And it's very easy to turn away from things when you have loud minorities, in your face and
yeah,
whatever. Now, maybe,
it was me.
maybe they did you a favor by being so nasty that they maybe undermined their own credibility, but I thought that was good. I appreciated it.
Well, thank you. And it was ugly and mean, and you saw the horrible side of humanity to some degree. But the issue at stake here is housing. And if I've been saying we need all income levels across all of Dallas, and yet here I am doing everything in my power to keep it out of my district, I don't think I could look at myself in the mirror. I mean, that just seems all wrong. And I have to say, I had a good CPC, a person working this through with Michael Young.
One of the best.
And he had a notebook. it was pretty, and he would, something would be said and he'd be like, wait a minute, flip over, pull it out, and there would be, this is what we're doing. So they really worked hard, and they being staff, Michael Young, to the community to some degree, because there was some individuals who did come to the table willing to figure out how it could work. And then, and the developer, and they all came with the thought that, we're going to make this right. It's not that we're going to cram X down somebody's throat, or that that it's just going to, the developer has to do all of this. But it was very thought out. The design changed from when they first put it on, put it before the community. So there was, to look at the technical merits of the project, there was no reason to say no. It was all about who was going to be in it, how the financing. And to me, that's not part of zoning. To me, that is not a zoning case. That is another issue that comes before us, or had come before us, 6 months ahead of time with the PFC. So I felt that we did a lot of work leading up to it. I knew the council was watching it, and we had seen other projects. And Philip, that we have pushed other projects even without the councilman up supporting it, that needed to happen.
I'm going to ask you to do that again here in a couple of weeks.
and that's it, Philip. It's like we're trying to undo a lot of stuff that had been done in previous years. And we know that it was done intentionally. There are court cases that proves that it was done intentionally. So for me to say not in D9, I thought was not good of me. And I wanted to make it work. The guys that did it, they live in D9. There's a family. They are very, they're good people. The people that are going to live in this development are good people. They're working class people. So I didn't see a reason for it not to happen. And so that was the North Star, is what does it take to make it happen? And that was how we did it.
Paul, as a counselor, how do you find yourself? I always find these sort of conversations fascinating, of balancing those sort of competing interests at times, especially when I feel like the folks who are against projects like this, they're against it in principle and in a way that almost can never be like won over by any amounts of facts or statistics or arguments, right? And those sorts of things. They're just against affordable housing, period, for whatever reason, mm-hmm. right? And it seems like it's always really hard, I think, for counselors to kind of navigate that, because you, as a city councilor, are charged with representing people, both of parties, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you sort of in your own mind kind of figure out how is the best way to kind of manage those competing priorities?
Well, and I think the first thing you do is you have to listen, even to the nastiness, right? Because in that whole conversation, you're going to find the thread in which they're operating. And I think what you then do is go, you know what? I'm never going to make them happy. They're never going to understand a rational thought. They're never going to understand what the objective of the comprehensive housing plan is. They're never going to accept change for whatever reason. And you kind of go, you know what? We're never going to be on the same page, but you give them the opportunity to hear what their common thread is, or their thread is, of what's driving them. Then you start looking at, okay, here are individuals who are either really impacted by this, and B, who really want to come with an open concept, an open mind, an understanding. And that's, you work with the coalition of the willing.
Mm-hmm.
And you really figure out how to get that right for them. Because there are going to be, and Philip, you know this, there are going to be folks that are just against it for the sake of being against it. And you just go, you know what? I can't help you. I learned that today. Citizens against
virtually everything.
Yeah.
And Paula, you may not know this, but Tyler is a former city council person.
Like in Forney or something, or what?
No, up in Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah,
okay.
Indiana. Yeah,
that's called Forney, Indiana. It's one and the same, right?
Yeah, Forney's the Indiana of Texas, right? Maybe.
Yeah. So you understand that too, Tyler, that there are just individuals that you go, you know what? You listen to them. You try the best you can to understand them, and I do try to understand their motive, what is making them tick. But then you go, you know what? There's a group here, and you're never going to be happy. You're more invited to come to the meetings, happy to sit and talk with you, but you're not going to disrupt the work that needs to be done. And I think that's from raising 3 boys.
Yeah, I always joke, people would ask, aren't you afraid about, opponents, they'll say, or losing an election? And I always joke that getting beat would be the best thing that could ever happen to me, right? Because I'm like, I don't know, fewer meetings to go to and less people coming up and yelling at me at the grocery store. Those are right. Like, I would be
Paula,
okay.
I think, I was having lunch. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One other thing on that one, because my husband said, you know what, if you get voted out for putting more housing, that's okay. I mean, that, you know what, like I said, I got to look in the mirror. I've got to be okay with what I did. And, and there are ways you could do it, right? You could say, I'm going to vote against it, but y'all all vote for it. And, you could do all this stuff.
The Casey Thomas, I call that.
Yeah. That's you, not me. But it's like, no.
Well, he didn't ask you to do it. That was before you were there.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I've been talking about affordable housing in all of our districts. I've pushed it in a couple of them without the council member wanting it. You know what? I'm not going to do that. Let the chips fall where they fall. And it's okay.
Well, the thing I think that you're going to enjoy, because I think you'll, if you choose to still be on council, I think you will be on council when this project is in lease up. And when it is in lease up, people are going to not know that there's any affordable housing in it.
Correct.
Because of the things I've done on council and then in private practice, I have a mental map of basically every affordable unit in Dallas. So I do know where they are. And I can tell you no one else does. Unless you're talking about an old style DHA property that just bears those sort of architectural features of public housing. Anything that's been built in the last 20 years, right, you have no idea. I lived next door to the gas lofts downtown for a year, and there was no functional way to tell that building had affordable housing in it, and mine didn't. It just, and people, I've been in these arguments recently, which I'm bringing one back to you soon, where people are telling us that it's going to hurt their property values, and I'm like, downtown real estate is worth $300 a foot right next to the affordable housing. I'm like,
next to the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I was hearing it was going to impede traffic in my neighborhood. It's like, yeah, I don't think they can go through that creek and that detention pond back into they're going to take Garland Road. There's going to be all sorts of traffic. No, residential is not the same as commercial. It does not, it's not, and it's not even the same as restaurants, right? So commercial, even within that component, people will be able to sit, look in my backyard. Well, I mean, we worked very hard to make sure that those sight lines are mitigated. Because I do feel that was the one thing, having kids. It was like, whatever we can do to mitigate it, let's try our darndest, and they did. So that's why I said we worked on the things that I knew really were valid reasons. And so it's like the traffic, yeah, it ain't gonna happen. Sorry, you live up by Northwest Highway. It's not, they're not gonna even drive, they're not gonna go that way. They're gonna go through Garland Road.
That Chick-fil-A on Garland Road is the bigger traffic problem anyway.
Oh my God. Well, Garland Road itself is a bigger problem. and Love State Highway is going right through the middle of an urban setting.
Lovely. Let's take a lane out of it. How about that?
Well, we got to take it back, Philip, because it's not City of Dallas. But yes, I would love to figure out a way.
We did take it back. You're probably aware of this. We did take it back south of the 3G intersection.
Yeah, but not from 3G.
No,
it's still, and so we're going to start that. That's going to be my next 2 years.
Oh, for real?
Is for real. I told TC that's the number one thing on my docket moving forward, is how to get to tell me that we're not going to put it back in our portfolio because we may have to fix it in 15 years. Is like, well, I'm not building a new house because I may have to fix the roof. It's like, that makes no sense. Building. Yeah.
Well, man, I'm impressed with that, because you were already taking on Abrams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Abrams, Ferguson Road. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Tell us what the vision is for those, because I think I didn't know you were working on that. And somebody was like, we were talking about Skillman over in my neighborhood, and somebody smarter than I am, or more up on D9, was like, well, let's just copy what Paula's doing on Abrams.
Well, we're doing a complete study because it is, you can tell where it comes to Mockingbird, how the whole patterns change.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what we've done is we've done short-term things of just putting little knobs so it slows down traffic because people are barreling through. And we've done, 35 miles an hour and flashing lights, so we've tried to train people to stop. But right now it's just, there's going to be a traffic study, and I don't know what's going to come back, to be quite honest. And so we have, go ahead.
I mean, I think Ridley's going to order a traffic study on Skillman, but I went ahead and ordered all the open record stuff for public safety incidents in the last 5 years on Skillman, just on the part that's not the 6-lane, where it chokes down just north of Mockingbird. And it's horrendous. I was truly shocked, and I live right over here, so I see those accidents. So I knew there were plenty of accidents. I didn't realize the number. It's horrendous, and a lot of pedestrians get hit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and if you're trying to get to Teetsy Park, forget it.
That's the big one.
And Philip, the thing is people are driving like bats out of hell. I mean, Tyler, you see these 17-year-olds where you are. Let's not put them in a car, but we're going to give them a gun. But anyway.
Well, and does it seem worse since the pandemic? Are people driving worse?
It is. I think people are driving worse. They're leaving later. You know what I mean? Like, and they're driving faster, and I think there are less people on the roads now because you don't have to leave all the time. I think people are okay with staying at home, and they can work from home. And so they're not having to get on the highway or the byways and the streets. But what I do like to see is that people want connectivity. They want to be able to cross the street. They want to be bigger sidewalks. So maybe we've matured in that aspect as wanting a walkable city.
Let's hope so. I mean, I can't wait to see what you do on Ferguson, Garland, all the major thoroughfares in 9.
Here it is, the draft report for Ferguson, and it's extensive. So
Do you think
It's
she
kind of
brought that
nice.
just to show it off to us,
That's
Tyler? Or do
impressive.
you think she was actually
No, I
sitting
like
there
that.
working on it?
I bet, yeah, I bet she was. That's good. I try to carry around a lot of papers all the time whenever I'm on campus and look like I'm right. People, well, he's got stuff going. He's busy, right? It's good showmanship. But no, it's impressive.
Well, I mean, I was going to go and drive it because the visual is the best way, right? So you can read it, but let's go and put it on a map and really, I I I can't remember things anymore unless I write it down and I speak it and I see it. I mean, I'm at that age.
I, we're not too dissimilar in age, and I've been that way for a while.
I know. Well, I mean, I've got it's where yeah, I have to write things down more so now, and I think it's just because I've got more going on.
Paula, what's going on at the lake and the dredging at White Rock?
Oh my gosh, I should show you. I have Dredge Baby Dredge shirts. Let me, and so it's we've got it on our legislative agendas, and Colin Allred has earmarked about $2 million to begin preliminary engineering with our friends at the Army Corps of Engineers. So it's only a beginning. It's not the end all be all, but and it's not a done deal. But we at least have some folks on the federal level that are help pushing that. On the state level, you know, with their 40 billion, they just don't seem too interested in this time. We kind of, you know, we're kind of getting lost in all the rhetoric of the
We have
voucher
to fund too many Jesus
discussion,
schools. We can't
and yeah,
dredge.
and yeah, we can't do something that could actually, you know, benefit a community. But so that doesn't, it means this session is not viable, but that doesn't mean a next session. But we're still continuing those conversations, still beating it. They're going go to the water board. So what we'll do is we will keep up these discussions, and we will still go down to the state and still advocate for it because we have to dredge it. And so we have a bond hopefully coming in 2024. And I do not feel that the price tag of 50 to 80 million should be put on all of the taxpayers of Dallas. So we are, I mean, that's why I'm asking a lot of folks wherever they are to help us with this, being federal, state, county. And so we're going to we're right now we're in preliminary engineering design. So we're going to figure out how we're going to do this. And the three options are one dredge, one time going the maximum amount, a medium-sized dredge with mini dredges every 2 years, or a smaller dredge with a little bigger than mini dredges all every year. And so what we're trying to do is focus on those the two latter ones versus just the one time, and keep the infrastructure in and just dredge a little bit all the time, because we're going to get these runoffs of Frisco stuff coming into our lake, and we've got to make sure that it's healthy. So we're looking at creating a sustainable project, and we're looking at everything and everything and all things.
You have a vocal constituent who should probably be appointed dredging czar, Tim Rogers.
Who's that?
From
Yeah, he's
it was a joke, Tim. It's a joke.
We'll see if he listens to this. Anyway, but yeah, Tim is he's very vocal, and I mean, we did a good job the last time, but we didn't get to the shorelines. And if you notice, I mean, they're becoming bogs almost. You know, we're going to be able to drill for oil in a couple of years if we don't watch it.
We hope you better hope Dallas Cothram doesn't listen to this, or we will have oil.
I know he will be, and he'll be happy. But I'm not going to let it happen on my watch, right? And so I may be asking everybody to every Saturday bring their pail and their shovel, and let's get to work. And but we're working through it, and everybody is aware that that's one of my big issues. and I will continue to push it forward because we saw in the pandemic how important open space was, and it
Mhm.
still is. It didn't die. That was what it. People didn't go back inside. They're still out.
Mhm.
So I'm happy that they're utilizing our parks. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that it is a healthy park. And then it's also a transportation hub with all the trails coming in. So it's not just a recreation. It is actually something that people use, if they're going to get to downtown or going through, to get to their other place of destination. And we also see that it brings vitality in our land use. I mean, everything is trying to pop up around there, right? To get close to a trail. So I think we
I
need
think
to.
I think one of the animating features of District 9 as a political entity is that basically 100% of people care very deeply about the lake and really see protecting the lake kind of all in the same way. Like it's you could have a different opinion. You could have the people who wanted to develop restaurant there have
Mhm.
been proposals for things that aren't evil or bad. It's just not what District 9 wants. And I think that it's really it works out well for the rest of us because I use the lake all the time. I know people in many districts who use the lake constantly, and it creates a situation where your constituents essentially serve as stewards for this lovely thing that benefits the rest of us.
Right. And and I think I said it, I don't know how many times for the 9,000th time, I'm not developing the lake. I actually think we need to develop it as complete open space. I mean, in Philip, we share our love for Deep West Texas. That is the love for Deep West Texas is the open space.
Right.
And when you're
That's
in
what
an
makes it.
urban, that's what makes it. And when you're in an urban setting, you need that because my even I go even to if I have to go to even to a forum or a contentious meeting at the lake, the meeting at the lake, it just brings it all down because I mean it's beautiful. You hear, you see the squirrels playing, you hear the birds, you see families, you see dogs walking with their, with their companions, and it's nice. It's a nice place to be, and it's all walks of life, right? It's not
Mhm.
just it is. It's a place that you find peace. And I think sometimes that is needed when you live in Dallas.
That's great. And then people post about those green parrots every year on the neighborhood
Oh, yeah.
Facebook pages. People, what are
Yeah.
these
They come
birds?
back. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
often wonder what so the only people who've lived on the lake in recent history are ever since I guess the camps moved out, the German POWs during World War II.
Mm.
Apparently, the Geneva Convention requires that soldiers captured be housed in a similar climate to where they were captured. And apparently, it was determined by the Department of Defense that, although I think it was the Department of War back then, that the climate of Dallas was sufficiently similar to North Africa that the German troops captured there could be housed at White Rock Lake. I wonder what those people thought when they got to White Rock after having served in the desert.
The desert, like, boy, there's a lot of water here. Weird.
I kind of feel like they got a good deal. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
So
Small technical issue, listeners. We'll edit this out so it won't. You can tell off color jokes at this juncture, Tyler. We'll wait for her to log back in. Looks like she's having some.
There we go.
Here she is. Hello, Paula.
sorry.
No problem. This is it. It's easy for me to edit, so don't worry about internet problems or if you say something off color that you want me to delete
Okay.
later, I can certainly do
Sorry.
that too.
Because I only have one laptop now, and it's my city one. So of course, anything that is with campaigning is on my phone. And so that's why I went to plug in my and I went to go look for it, and I think one of my kids took it. So my laptop, my Apple one, it's okay. But so how did you find that little piece of information, Philip?
I think they had that in the display at the
Museum?
museum.
Okay, I'm gonna go that
It was
because
either
that
that,
is
it was either that or like it was one of those KERA History Minute things.
mhm.
I don't know exactly. My brain is littered with possibly useful information,
Okay.
questionably
Because
useful.
I'm thinking, don't we have tons of like high humidity compared to what I
I
mean?
guess I
But it
guess
is,
that
I
wasn't
guess.
enough of an issue. I don't know.
Okay. But I mean, yeah, I would think camping at White Rock Lake would be, I mean, granted you're in a prison camp, but I mean, but if just camping at White Rock Lake would be kind of fun.
I would think it'd be okay and not get shot at. That seems all right.
Paula, we've asked everybody that's come on the candidates this season about 345.
Hmm. I
So
signed well, I have that memo right here too. So I did sign, I guess y'all saw Chad's memo that we've asked the city manager or the mayor to put another item on to take a year to really go into uh, the minutia, I guess, section 2 kind of lines out. And as I've told everybody, I mean, we heard what TxDOT say, that it's going to be on our dime. My question is what is our dime, right? And is it really a nickel? Is it a quarter? Is it a silver dollar? And so, as I told somebody, I want a cost benefit analysis. I want to know, if we do this, what is the benefit and the ROI that comes with it? I do believe that we need to look at all the other plans that we've adopted since then, because I think Vision Zero has been brought forth, and of course the racial equity plan and and then CCAP. But I really want to understand, in that briefing that we had, with Season and TxDOT, was just to kind of understand the TxDOT frame of mind. I think we need to understand what the city's frame of mind is and what we need to do. And then what does that look like moving forward? And I think a different pair of eyes that doesn't have a dog in the hunt could be beneficial. It's not, I mean, I do like the hybrid. Let me just say that. I think the hybrid it marries a lot of things. But I don't understand, because a lot of it is this new way of developing a roadway, and with buildings flying and everything. And so I really want to try to understand, what does that all mean, the source of funds that we can get, and what does it ultimately mean to the taxpayer?
Well, I've not appreciated very much TxDOT's and Michael Morris's statements regarding this traffic facility. TxDOT itself issued the city map plan that evaluated the boulevard option and found it perfectly feasible. And then just a few years later, they issued a contradictory opinion based on some kind of new data. And I think Chad has pointed out that we don't really know where that data came from. And I distrust that because of the inconsistency. I think Michael's argument that it is racist to convert it to a boulevard is really offensive. I mean, for one thing,
That's
white guys need not use the R word. Like it's not for us. you know, it's just one to avoid. And it's facially offensive. This highway that was definitely put there for racist reasons. I don't think that that's something that should be believed. And I kind of hate to see the morning news and some of the other media printing that uncritically. But the thing that really has me baffled is how TxDOT intends to force all of the costs onto the city of Dallas when their own design manual requires them to seek the locally preferred alternative. And the facility is theirs. They own it. So at a minimum, aren't they required to take it down, which they have valued? I've seen about 4 different values they've put on that. One time they were saying that's only like $20 million to tear it down. And then another time they were saying it's $500 million. It just seemed to vary with whatever Patrick Kennedy and I were arguing at the time.
So
do you buy into that? Like I don't know that they can really follow through on that threat.
well, they're the state. They can figure out a way to follow through on a lot of things. I don't know. I would hope that they're truly that they're coming with integrity and partnership in this. And so all I remember hearing at that briefing was you change you want it a different way and you have to pay for it. That's what that is what came to, that was the resonating statement. But you've shed some new light. I mean, and that's the thing, that because you were here from the, you understood from the very beginning. So if we pick it up and start running with the baton in the middle. And so I do think it is an opportunity to understand what it means to do each of these things and what is it to the city and to the taxpayer and to the state. Because I do think it's pretty cloudy. I think everybody's trying to put their own spin on it, if you will. And that's why I think just an independent consultant to just give us the facts, they have no dog in the hunt, to tell us this is what it is, this is what you need to do, is the best thing. And well, I had people like, going, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm so confused on what was said at that briefing, because they basically looked at me and said, well, no, we're not doing this and you have to pay for it and only you do this. But it seems to me that could be more from what I'm hearing than just doing the boulevard. So I'm totally confused. Isn't that what you want to do to get a vote? Is you just confuse people and they just vote, move on?
I think that might have been a tactic, but I would say that a group that might be a valuable advisor to the city is the group that put together the city map study. I don't know why. I would think that HNTB has the most credibility of anybody on this subject.
Well, and they may be. I'm going to write their name down here on this. I know that
James Fry was the project manager.
You're right. You're right. So, because it's a year, and what I said, it's not like we're going to lose any funding because we're not even funded, so it's like a year in this whole big scheme. It's like, it doesn't mean that the work still can't happen in some degree, but we can do this other work in another parallel track too. Right. I just think more information is better. And I know that it says, do not, don't put this on a resolution of support. The thing about it is, I don't even know what I would be supporting, just the hybrid. I mean, it's kind of like, go with the hybrid and we're not going to ask any more questions. It's like, I think that's not our role. I think that is our role, is to ask the questions.
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't want to commit to fully supporting anything until I'd seen like a 15% plan.
True. And yeah, I don't even think we have a design. We don't even have preliminary anything. Yeah, 30% schematic or whatever. So it's a complicated, but it shouldn't be, but it's become complicated.
Well, I thought the memo was a good idea. I'm glad to see you sign on to that.
Yeah, I did. And as I said, I just need to understand the details, source of funds, what's the cost benefit, is there an ROI? Because we've been saying that, if we bring more land into the coffers that can be developed, then what does that mean? Look, I'd like, so it is just not looking to me at a roadway just myopically. You've got to look at it as it flows out. And the thing is uh I'm more interested in the I'm more interested. I mean, TxDOT looks at roadways, and we know that A to B as fast as you can. What I'm looking at is building communities, stitching them back, and how does that look? And can we afford it? So,
All important questions.
I think the other thing we've got everybody on has been the debate on short-term rentals. So it seems
short-term, what
yeah.
are those?
Never heard about that.
I've never heard about those. So yeah, I've been involved with that for I guess 3.5 years now, and I just kind of went silent for a while because the drama is intense. Party houses, not good. When everybody came, and we don't want party houses, that's not the intent. And I don't necessarily like short terms being sprinkled throughout, every neighborhood. But when you look at the individuals who came and spoke from my district in D9, a lot of them are owner occupied. Cannot say only owner occupied, but you can say that they're living there. There's a full-time occupant, right? So I would love to figure out a way in which multifamily gets revisited in this, and that we can figure out a way that owner occupied, or not owner occupied, just occupied, a 24-hour occupant is there on premise, if that is a way. And then what does an opt out look like? So if you ban them, do you opt out, or if you keep them and then to opt? Yeah, I mean, like, in other words, how do you determine as a neighborhood if you want to ban them all outright? And so what was brought before us with the total ban, TC has said he can't enforce. And I just don't know how to enforce it. Maybe Philip, you're a smart guy. And then we talked about SUPs. I mean, how do you create an opportunity for an SUP process? You can do it through the PD process, I guess. But so if you had a mixed, not a mixed use, but if you just had a PD. But so short-term rentals is one of those other ones that's very hard public policy right now.
Well, pardon me. DC seems to be able to enforce a total ban on commercial activity within single family neighborhoods, and he seems to be able to enforce a total ban on multifamily dwelling in single family neighborhoods. So I found his statement to be pretty unreliable. The thing about, I think I've always thought that the council would not go for a ban in multifamily. Just from counting noses, that's the only thing that comes from. And so I think you guys probably will revisit that. But with regard to like the owner occupant thing.
Yeah, you can't say owner occupant, you say 24-hour occupant or something like that.
Even with regard to that, in places where they've passed similar language,
Santa Monica, yeah.
They, they get a fake tenant, they have a lease with somebody who isn't actually there. And then they're just operating an STR anyway. And so I don't know. I think that the task forces, the multiple task forces all came to the same conclusion, and the neighbors came kind of the same conclusion, and CPC came to the same conclusion, at least with regard to the R zoning codes, the single family residential zoning codes. I don't know why a ban doesn't work. It seems to work in Arlington. I don't know why that can't work for us. But the issue, it's just every time somebody brings up the idea of how are we going to regulate this in a way that makes it compatible with single family neighborhoods, they come up with ideas like SUPs, which cost a lot of money and also would shut down CPC. That you would absolutely stop having CPC. And so it's just from our perspective, Tyler and I have talked about this an awful lot on this show. We can't get past the fact that every STR takes a valuable long-term housing unit out of the mix. And in the crisis we're in, I think that's it's hard to overcome that argument in my mind. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but that's just, I think, where Tyler and I wind up coming down on it.
And I completely understand that, but I'm solving for the Jeff Veazey's, believe it or not. And he has that is who you talk about neighbors. He lives in his house, in his front house. He has a back garage apartment. He leases it usually to people that are traveling from, they're just coming in to visit their neighbor or their family in the neighborhood. So they stay. So that way, the mother-in-law has her own space, so to speak. And that was I think out of the people that spoke that were for it, that was what their point was. This is how I augment my taxes. So I can stay in my house. That is who I'm trying to solve for. And because Jeff's a good guy. He and his wife have raised their family there. I don't want them to move. They're a good neighbor. They're not my neighbor because I don't live in Old Lake Highlands, but they're a good neighbor. And yes, I'm getting that specific with my focus, because to me in D9, that is the group that says we want them in I use this to help my income.
Well, the other thing that we have coming up that we think is a big deal, and we've talked with our other candidates about it, is, and you already brought up a couple of projects that are probably bond funded. What else do you see as priorities for District 9 for the 2024 bond package?
Transportation and streets to some degree, because if you've seen, I think mine, Paul, and Jesse's are pretty low as far as rating. Where that inner city area that has been actually neglected as well. So I do think that, and I say streets and transportation, but I say it in connectivity. So we have 6-lane highways. Some of them are state, some of them are city made, and yet we have to drive to the park. And so I want to create, how do you connect neighborhoods that lead to different, to the park setting or to White Rock Lake or just to the other neighborhoods so you don't have to drive. And so I kind of want to undo some of this mentality of living around a car. I want to start unweaving that. And I think to do that is you have to have a plan, and you have to start the focus of that plan and investing in it. So I think transportation and connectivities and streets, I think flood control, which is people tell me not to say that dredging is not a flood maintenance program. And I'm like, well, if more water could flow into White Rock Lake, it essentially helps alleviate some of that. So
that's for sure.
Next time we have 10 inches of rain on one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not going to be on Buckner Boulevard. It's going to flow and it's going to keep going down to the Trinity. Anyway, but I've told that. But I do think storm drainage. And then we're going to have that economic and housing line item, but I think we're going to have to go out for a bigger one than just the 20 million that we're going to.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a model like Austin or something. And I haven't dug deep in
Paula's the first one to have said that on these convos.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay,
really?
Well, I really think that we're going to have to do something bold and different if we are wanting to do something bold and different.
I knew we picked the right candidate, Tyler.
I just feel that if you're going to talk about housing, nipping it around the edges is not going to get us anywhere. We're going to have to go in, and And let's have those conversations with the community. And if they don't like it, then you know what, that's fine. But then we're going to have to raise taxes.
This sounds like the new chair of Housing and Homeless Solutions.
So that's Chad. Chad. No, but
One
just,
other thing.
I just feel,
Oh, go ahead. So I'm sorry, Paul.
because I
Please.
feel if you put more housing units, it does help with the homeless, because it's a supply and demand. There's individuals that have a job, they just can't afford the rents that are there, and so we have to do something different, and we have to do, and Dallas has done that before. And so to say that that's not in our DNA is bullshit.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, this is awesome. This is music to our ears. The one thing that we noticed when we were thinking through bond stuff, and I'm gonna probably have a couple of clients who want help with bond stuff, is I noticed that your staff is proposing to have the bond election in May of next year. And that really concerns me, because literally nothing else will be on the ballot. And I know that they think that that means that everybody who shows up to vote is going to be strongly in favor of bond funding. And they're probably right, but you're going to have not even 20,000 voters citywide. And to me, that's unhealthy to have the most important investment decisions of the city made by the smallest number of people that you possibly can gather together for an election. And the other thing I noticed is that you are at the 10-year limit on your charter review. And so what a May election does, it's less democratic because you're getting less input from people. It's more subject to a wealthy person or group putting together an anti-campaign, because it wouldn't cost very much money to really sink some propositions, for instance, the housing proposition. And the third thing is you're paying for 2 elections, because you're then going to have to come back in November and do your charter amendment. Whatever propositions get through for the charter amendment will have to be voted on in November. So you're basically wasting $1 million.
I mean, I think a November 2024 is fine. I mean, I think people get scared of presidential election years, but I don't think we should. I mean, I don't. I think that, yeah, more people come out and it's down ballot. But you're right. You do have a little bit more. There would be a little bit more. I actually think it would be fine to go in November of 2024. That May of 2024, you're right. It's going to be so narrow in scope. It's not going to have any sex appeal to it, and anybody can mount a major opposition to it if they wanted to.
I just fear for that housing proposition, especially if we're going to try to be bold.
It always comes in like 52%, 51.5%. I mean, it is so darn close. And so
y'all need a pay raise, and you want to put that on a November ballot, because a May electorate will probably not vote to raise your pay.
Well, I hope I'm worthy of a pay increase.
Well, it's you personally are, in our opinion, but it's more the principle of these things. It's the reason we tried to increase it the first time. What I told people is we need working parents on council. Paula Blackmon, who raised 3 boys, can afford to serve, and
yeah,
I'd say that's a success.
Well, and you can't have a job. I mean, you really can't. I don't know how somebody who does this and has a full-time job or even a part-time job.
I tried. Very difficult. I didn't do a good job at either.
Well, something has to give, right? I mean, it's not easy. And but I do think I don't know when we're going to open up the charter. I know we have to. I think by the end of 2023, I think. So
well, you've got to, your last one was 2014.
Oh, 14, it wasn't 13. Okay, I thought it was 13.
No, it was 2014, and it's 10 years. And so
Yeah.
your review commission needs a year to work. They're entitled to a year. They won't take a whole year, but so you gotta go ahead and do it fairly soon so that they can start working on it. But if you go ahead and target November of 2024, you'll be fine on time. Just give them enough time to do their job. Make Raphael do it again. He did a good job last time.
He did a good job. He's such a thoughtful guy.
Well, and he knows how to run a meeting.
Running a meeting is key. And he, because it can get, I mean, and I think were you on that council that gave him the directives on what to look for too? Was there kind of like, not directives, but to say, we'd like for you to focus on this, this, and this, as well as any others?
I mean, this I think also is to his credit. He asked us,
oh,
where do you want us to look? And I thought I mean, the whole thing was handled pretty well.
Well, there are some things, I actually don't have my charter, Tyler, but I usually have my charter with me. There are some things that are in that that are just like, oh my gosh, why hasn't that been taken out yet? I think if you I know, like I think we managed the flour distribution at one time. It's like in our duties, and then milk, weights of milk. I mean, it's like interesting. It's like that probably should have been struck out.
We've had some pretty prominent politicians make a lot of noise out of distributing milk in our fair city. So
I stepped out into that one, didn't I? Yeah, and so in the summertime when it became cheese.
Yeah,
but
we're gonna
anyway,
instead of the summer of safety, it's gonna be the summer of milkshakes. That's the word on the street, I think. But,
adult milkshakes. Are we gonna have like a
why
little
not?
bit of
That's
Kahlua,
right, a little boozy
or
milkshake.
A little bit of, yeah, to walk across the street in. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that discussion on charter, because I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, it's not a very prescriptive format. It's just
no, it isn't. It's wide open, and if they bring you a bunch of stuff you don't like, you don't have to send any of it to the voters. Right. And yeah, it's wide open. It's and that's fine. The document creating its own mandatory review, I think, is a genius idea, that you have to do this every 10 years, but it only means you have to look at it.
Correct. Yeah, and I did, and so it's kind of fun that it's on, it's at a time when, I'll hopefully still be there. So
you're going to be there. We have confidence.
Well, okay. Thank you. I do want my job back. I enjoy it.
Well, why don't we give you the last word then? Because you want your job back. We want you to have it back. Why should Loserville listeners, a very, very prominent group, give you your job back?
For the last 4 years, I have really focused on quality of life issues that I believe not only affect D9, but the rest of the city. And I've worked to bring, better parks, arts and culture, working with our friends at the Bathhouse to bring more culture even to White Rock Lake. And I enjoy that part of it. That's, as somebody says, that's the ministry of happiness. And it does make people happy. But we've also done the hard things of continuing to, lower property tax rates, which hopefully gave a little bit more money in people's pockets. And I will continue to do that. I know that we're going to have to make some hard decisions in the next year, and I'm willing to make those hard decisions because I want people to be able to still go out and go to Good Friend Burger and go to Keller's and go to Lakewood Growler and enjoy, being in the outdoors. And then public safety is always going to be on the tops of everybody's mind. We have a great police chief, support him, and been working to give them the added resources that they need to be successful. You can't hold anybody to their job if you don't give them the resources. And I think Chief and his command staff have been working really hard on that. The next 2 years, hopefully maybe 4, the next 2 for sure, if reelected, focusing on dredging White Rock Lake, master planning it, which is essentially bringing all the master plans that governs White Rock Lake into one document that is memorialized, having some, general, conversations in the public of technology and understanding what is wanted and needed around our park. And then also looking at those transportation corridors and not just looking at the transportation element, but the land use element that's around it, because they go together. And so fortunately I have, Ferguson Road, I have Garland Road, and eventually Northwest Highway is going to be, at the intersection of Northwest Highway and Abrams. That could be a very impactful area. So I'll be focusing on that through the Forward Dallas plan. And I'd like to come back and continue that work.
Really good. We did good on programming this week.
Thank you.
The best episodes of Loserville are always when Philip and I talk less, right? So that's yeah.
We get frequent requests to have more guests on.
Always, because it's always better to have this three-person conversation than just you two.
There is something magic about three voices. I think that's why a lot of radio does that. We're not that smart. We just lucked into it.
Yeah, they have a sidekick that kind of chirps in.
Yeah, the yuck monkey.
Yeah,
I won't comment on which one of us is that.
So I'll be in Alpine all of July, Philip.
Oh, awesome! I'll be down there at least a little bit.
Okay.
Tyler was supposed to be down using our place in Marfa this week, but his traveling companion had a problem and they have to reschedule. So,
oh, rats.
Sorry, Tyler.
Okay. That's life. Yeah.
So,
well,
I'll be down there.
Tell your lovely husband I said hello and thank you for stopping by Loserville.
Thanks for having me.